Hello everyone, and welcome to my Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 Retrospective. So this phase of the MCU has been talked about a lot, and it's pretty controversial. And today I thought that I would go back through the entire phase, both reviews that I've already done and reviews I haven't done, and discuss each project individually, and then at the end, discuss the problems and good things with the MCU's Phase 4. So, let's start with WandaVision. If I'm gonna be honest, my original review summed it up pretty well. My opinion hasn't really changed much. It's still a 7 out of 10. It's not great, but it's good. It's solid. I like the end mystery was pretty entertaining at the time when it was like week by week, the fans trying to figure out what was happening, other than all the people who were just spamming Mephisto. But, other than that, it was pretty cool, and it was fun, and it was cute as well. I liked seeing Scarlet Witch and Vision back, and I'm excited for that Vision Quest show that they're working on. So then there is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have not talked about this show before, and a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, it was good. It was good." Some people think it's great. I am not one of those people. I think it was fine. It was okay. There really isn't much to say about it. I didn't like the new Captain America guy, U.S. agent. The actor was good, but they did not do it right with him. It was a huge shock, though, when he beat the crap out of that guy. That was a good moment, because I did not expect it. That subverted my expectations, and I liked that. What did not subvert my expectations, though, was Falcon becoming Captain America. And I hate that they tried to pull that thing where it's like, nah, I won't do it. Because he literally said at the end of Endgame, "I'll make you proud," or something like that. And now he's just like, nah, I don't want to, because he's dead now, it doesn't matter. Or something like that. But, yeah, it was alright. Baron Zemo, I don't know why he came back. Same for Agent 13. They should have just left her in the dust. But, yeah, it was fine. I liked the Wakandans, though. I liked seeing them. That was cool. Loki. Okay, so, here's the thing. My opinions on this show have not changed. However, my overall score has. It's not a 10 out of 10. Like, that's a little bit overzealous. It's still a hard 9, though. Like, it is pretty freaking good. It's not a 10 good. And so, I'm just knocking it down a point, but all the things that I said in my old review are still true. But it's just a score below. Black Widow. This is another film I haven't talked about before. And for good reason. I am a self-proclaimed hater of Black Widow. This film is god-awful. This is the definition of turned out to fill in a spot. It's a 1 out of 10, by the way. Like, nothing. That 1 point comes from one thing, and that is Yelena Belova. She is the saving grace of this film. She's so good. Everything else is awful. I'm not saying that the actors are bad. What's his face? David Harbour, he's pretty good. Scarlett Johansson, good as usual. Melina Vostokov, her actress, I don't know her name. She's pretty good. Though, I don't have any complaints towards the actors. The writing is awful. The story is awful. Taskmaster was executed so bad. I don't even mind that she's a woman, like so many people have been saying. It's just like, he's so menacing in the comics, and in this one, they just made him a lackey, and it annoys me so much. And then, the thing that annoys me the most about this movie is just that it exists. Black Widow should not have come back after Endgame. She died. She's done. She didn't need another story. Like, it didn't matter. None of this movie mattered. I wasn't invested at all because I already knew that, I think, 6 years later in the MCU timeline, 7 years later, she was just gonna die. Like, I already knew she died. I already know everything that's gonna happen. Like, it just doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The only thing this film did for the MCU was introduce Yelena Belova, which is great. I love Florence Pugh, and I love that character. But she could have been introduced in Hawkeye. Like, I don't think they 100% needed to make a whole movie just to introduce her. And maybe they will do something with the Red Room later on, but I don't think that's what they're planning on right now. And so, yeah, like they even said in one of the Avengers movies or Civil War or something Civil War was before, like Infinity War or Endgame, I think that the Red Room is taken down. Anyway, this movie is just so stupid, so pointless. I hate it. It should not have existed. And it also annoys me that it got delayed only because they wanted to release it in theaters. Like, it was done before COVID. They just wanted to release it in theaters. And then they put it on streaming service just for $30. So, yeah, that annoys me. This whole movie just annoys me. Just, like, get rid of it. I'm never talking about this movie ever again. Probably, unless it's, like, an overall thing. I'll probably just say 1 out of 10, move on. Because I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. I've watched it twice, that's it. Never coming back. So, although it's not technically a part of Phase 4, it's part of the Marvel Studios animation division, which isn't part of the phases structure, I did still want to talk about What If Season 1, and, because it's alright, it's fine. It's a 7 out of 10 for me, and the reason why I say it's just fine, even though it's a 7, is because there's a wide range. Like, I have my list right here of episode scores. There's 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. I think there's like 1 9. Yeah, right there. So, yeah, but my personal favorite episodes are definitely the Star-Lord T'Challa episode, Avengers Mystery episode, Doctor Strange episode, and the final episode. Those are probably my favorites. My least favorite, by far, was Party Thor. Or, sorry, not... What did I say, Party Thor? No, Party Thor was my second least favorite. My least favorite was the Killmonger one. I did not like that one. That one was so boring. It put me to sleep. It was not interesting to me. But, I mean, that one, that's just me. But, yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. By the way, I know it's Shang-Chi in the comics, but I refer to Shang-Chi when I'm talking about the comics and Shang-Chi when I'm talking about the movies. So, just making that difference clear. So, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I used to really like this film when it first came out, and just recently I changed my opinion a little bit, actually. And I used to have it as an 8 out of 10, but now it's a 7. Purely because, I mean, it was good when it was new, but it went down a little bit. Like, it's still a good movie. I liked Simu Liu. It put him on the map for me. I watched some of his other movies. And Awkwafina, I liked her in something for once. I never like Awkwafina. I like the Mandarin. I didn't really mind Trevor Slattery, but like I like how they kind of cleaned it up here, made it more clear. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. Although the final boss does annoy me. The final battle, it annoys me because the action in this movie is so good. The choreography, I think it's Kung Fu. I think that's the martial art they're doing. I don't know. I'm not a martial arts expert. The choreography is amazing, and the action is so good. Probably the best action in the MCU. Until the end, where it ends with a giant CGI monster battle. And that just annoys me. Like, the final battle could have been amazing. But they went down that route, and it really just didn't mess with me. Because it was so good, and it was so grounded, and then they took it to this mystical land, and it's like, whoa, hold up, wait a minute, where'd this come from? So, yeah, and it's not going to really do anything for the MCU overall, it's really just for Shang-Chi, so, yeah, that's great. Eternals. I was very overzealous with my review the first time. I said an 8 out of 10 before, it's like a 6. It's not awful, it's not a 3 or anything like that, it's not that bad. But it's fine. I mean, some of the characters were good. Like, I liked Icarus, of all people. I still like Drug. He's still my favorite. I love his character development in this film. And Cersei was pretty interesting, and so Sprite. But there are characters like Ajak, who was severely lacking, considering that she died in the beginning. Gilgamesh was also one that was kind of lacking. He was just kind of the cooker guy who didn't really care about what was going on all that much. Fastos was a little bit interesting, but Makari, she's deaf, and that's all I really know about her. I don't really know anything about Makari. I mean, she's a little bit mischievous, I guess, but, like, she's probably the most bland of all of them. And then Kingo, he's funny, actually. I like Kingo. But, yeah, so my knack against this film isn't the character development. One thing is the runtime. This film is so much longer than it needs to be. It does not need to be, like, 2.5 hours. This could have been fit into 2 hours, like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something. Or 2 hours and 5 minutes. I don't know. Could have been a little bit shorter. Shut up, car. I don't know if y'all heard that. But I liked it I liked some parts, but some parts were just severely lacking. And it's hard to explain, but yeah. Moving on to Hawkeye. This is another one that's kind of like Shang-Chi. I liked it better when it was new. It's a 7 now. It's still good. I don't know if I really want a season 2 as much anymore, now that I know that Kingpin's going to be back for Echo and Daredevil Born Again. But yeah, assuming Echo doesn't get canceled. Daredevil won't, but Echo might. Anyway, but yeah, it's good. I still don't really like Haley Steinfeld, though. She's a little bit annoying, but she's not, like, distractingly annoying, like some other actors, like, Jacob Batalon. He can get annoying. He's a good kind of annoying, though, so that was just one that kind of popped into my head. Anthony Mackie. There you go. He's just annoying. Like, I don't like Anthony Mackie all that much, honestly. Anyway, it's alright. 7. It's a good Christmas show. But Spider-Man No Way Home. So in my review, I did say that it's a 10 out of 10 on enjoyability, which is true. And it's an 8 out of 10, critically speaking, which is also true. I would still consider it an 8 out of 10 overall now, because now, this is something that I should talk about. From now on, I'm going to try, keyword try, to keep my opinions more critically, in my scores more critically speaking, rather than from the standpoint of just, did I like the movie? I watch movies that I like. That's never going to change. I don't watch movies for the thrill of it. Like, I couldn't even get through The Matrix, because I personally thought it was boring. But I'm going to try to talk about these more critically. For example, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's probably like a 4 now. Anyway, so this movie, it's an 8 out of 10. It's solid, but it does have a few issues. Like I did mention in my review, that it's very reliant on fan service. Like, this is a fan service film to the core. And, like Endgame. And so this one's kind of hard to give a score for because of that. Because it doesn't really feel like it's trying to be an actual movie. It's just trying to be a Spider-Man movie. But yeah, I would give it like an 8 out of 10. I liked seeing the characters back, and they did make villains that were skimmed over in the original Spider-Man movies more interesting, like Electro. Doc Ock, and Norman noticeably got a lot more attention than Sandman and Lizard. Probably because they weren't CGI. So, yeah, but it was good. It was great, actually. But, it went down a few points. Moon Knight, I'm not even kidding when I say nothing has changed. Same score, same opinions. It's not like WandaVision where it's changed maybe a little bit. Like, nothing's changed. It's still good. And I'm still looking forward to Oscar Isaac in more things, such as fingers crossed for the Midnight Suns. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is another one, like Spider-Man No Way Home. Gave it a 10 out of 10 for enjoyability, and an 8 out of 10 for quality. 8 out of 10 for quality still lines up. Still agree with that. That is still the truth, in my opinion. 10 out of 10 for enjoyability, though, I'd probably drop that down to like a 9. Because it's still really enjoyable as a Marvel fan, but it does get a little bit slow at some parts, and the Illuminati really is the most interesting part. But it still is pretty interesting throughout the rest of the movie. But critically, 8 out of 10, it's an 8 out of 10 critically. Because I liked Scarlet Witch's storyline, and I liked her character development from WandaVision. However, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me in some parts, because, like, the end of WandaVision was about her moving on from losing Vision, and then she proceeds to complain about having lost her kids. So it's a little bit confusing to me, but I'm willing to look past that. That's probably why one of those points is gone, is because of the main villain's motivations. But, yeah. And I liked Benedict Cumberbatch. He's still a good actor. America Chavez was a little bit annoying, but it wasn't that bad. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. Benedict Wong is funny, and I'm so glad that he's now the Nick Fury of the MCU, just appearing in every project. But, yeah. Miss Marvel. I was so overzealous with this review. Man, I said it was a 9 in my original review. This show was like a 6. It's not that great. The first few episodes, the first half of the show, is pretty good. I'd give it like a 7, and an 8 for the first 3 episodes. But then the second half is straight 6s, because it just gets so... it has so much exposition. It's literally just exposition. Like, yeah, it gets boring. And it's way less focused on the characters. Bruno, a lot of the main cast just disappears. It's basically just Kamala and her mom. And then the Red Dagger, and then a ton of new characters that come out of nowhere. I guess there's also the main villains, but, like, main protagonists. They all just disappear. But, yeah, and I still do think it's a big deal, though, that she was basically the first mutant in the MCU. There might have been someone else that I'm forgetting, but, you know, whatever. So I remember saying in my original Thor Love and Thunder review that I couldn't decide between a 6 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10. So I went with a 6.5. I've decided that it's a 6 out of 10. This is because when I was on a Disney cruise, I forgot which one it is, there was the Buena Vista Theater, right? And it was playing Thor Love and Thunder. And I saw it twice when I was on that weekend on the cruise. And after those rewatches, it started to click with me the reasons why this film isn't really that great. Is because, one, it has too many jokes, and none of them are funny. I hate the hammer jokes still. And the Natalie Portman, still not great. And Taika Waititi, he used to be great as Korg, but I don't know what was with his performance in this movie. Christian Bale was amazing. Like, no one can touch Christian Bale. He's like a whole 2 points on his own. Valkyrie, she was alright. She's Valkyrie. She's never been great. So, yeah, it's just a 6 out of 10. It's alright. So, She-Hulk Attorney at Law was a show that I promised a review for. I even made a little teaser. Well, I used a clip. And I was going to make a review on it. And the reason why I didn't was because of the finale. I had nothing to say about it. It was fine. This show is probably more spotty than What If. I have here 578657894. And you'll notice that the last episode was a 4. And that's because the fourth wall break, I didn't mind the fourth wall breaking throughout the show. It was a good tool. I do wish it was there more than just the beginning and the end, because it felt more like a transition device rather than a plot element. But in the finale, like, it just went on for too long. So, Werewolf by Night was the first special presentation of the entire MCU. I watched it on a flight, and I enjoyed it. It was good. I liked the black and white element. I liked the casting. I liked the short story. Like, nothing has changed here. It's still pretty good. And I really hope that they bring back the guy. Again, I forgot his name. His name is hard to pronounce, okay. And also Bloodstone, Man-Thing. Right, Man-Thing? Yeah. Sometimes I get him and Swamp Thing confused. I hope they bring them all back, because they were cool. And I really hope they do come back for future projects. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This is going to be a bit of a long segment. This is probably going to end up being my longest video on this channel. It was good. I'll just say that up front. 8 out of 10, right? And a few days ago, as of when I'm filming this, posted a community post talking about Furious 7 versus this movie, right? and how it treated their respective passings of actors. And at the time, I said that I couldn't explain why. Since I posted that, I have figured out why. And the reason why is because of how it's addressed. I'll talk about it more in a second. And by that I mean that in Furious 7, the issue of the matter of Paul Walker's death was not ignored whatsoever. It had a whole montage at the end. It had its own scene. It had constant teasers from the beginning about, like, how this is going to be his last appearance, blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't ignored. It didn't feel like it was ignored for the most part. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's just why. In Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the first scene of the movie is, Shuri, your brother is dead. And they just write T'Challa out of the story. And some people will say, no, T'Challa's death was the driving point of the plot. I've heard some people say, the Talokans attacked Wakanda because they were weakened by their leader. No, that the UN was going to. The UN did that. They did that because they lost their leader, which was overall irrelevant to the plot. The Talokans attacked Wakanda because they didn't help them overthrow the UN. So overall, T'Challa's death had near no effect on the story whatsoever. And it's like Chadwick Boseman, he had a brief thing at the end, a few clips, one or two little scenes, and it felt ignored. It felt bypassed for the sake of the movie, which is not what they should have done. This film probably should have been delayed so that they could have worked around it, because I've heard the reports that this movie is essentially the same movie, it's just starring Shuri instead of T'Challa. The movie should have been completely rewritten. It could have kept Namor, it could have kept the UN stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it should have focused more on T'Challa's death. And it just felt ignored, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure a lot of people think I'm crazy here, but it makes sense in my mind. And I don't know. I didn't want that to happen, but it did. And it didn't even have a for Chadwick or for Chadwick Boseman or in honor of Chadwick or blah, blah, blah. That's the bare minimum, is that you have that. That's the bare freaking minimum. Even friggin', what was it? Even Diary of a Wimpy Kid did that. If Diary of a Wimpy Kid can do it, Black Panther Wakanda Forever can. And I sat through the entire credits. Trust me, it's not there. Unless it's like one of those little things listed in those multiple credits, like, that no one reads. It's not there. So, yeah. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's a good movie. 8 out of 10. I liked some of the characters. M'Baku, I liked. Shuri, I actually liked. I didn't like her in any of the other ones, but she was better. Ironheart, great introduction. I hope her show doesn't get canceled. Namor. I hate calling him Namor. I don't get that. Shang-Chi was one thing, but Namor? Come on. Anyway. Namor, I refuse to make the compromise like I did with Shang-Chi. Namor, I really hope that spin-off project that they've been talking about comes to light, but I don't know how they would do it, because the cliffhanger for Wakanda Forever very much relies on another Black Panther or Wakanda focused project. So that would be kind of tough to work around. I didn't really like the post-credit scene, honestly. I predicted it, but I didn't like it. And I didn't like how they handled Nakia. I feel like Nakia just shouldn't have been in this film. Like, period. Like, it felt silly. Anyway. Yeah, this movie, it was rough, to say, in my opinion. With Chadwick and all that stuff. But 8 out of 10, it was, Guardians Holiday Special, we're going from that to this. It's a 7 out of 10. It's fun. It's cute. It's a good holiday special. I'm gonna watch it again on Christmas Day. It was fun. I liked it. It got me in the holiday spirit. And I like the advent calendar that released. I still have that, and yeah, it was cute. I liked the scenes on Earth. They were interesting. And I liked the whole thing about, like, what is Christmas, and blah, blah, blah. It was nice. It was cute. You know, it was nothing more than that. It was just cute. So, yeah. So, what went wrong with the MCU's Phase 4? Let's first talk about what they did right. They introduced so many characters, and most of them were introduced pretty effectively. WandaVision introduced, basically introduced Monica Rambeau and Photon. Falcon and Winter Soldier introduced U.S. Agent Valentina De Fontaine. I'm sure there's multiple other characters I'm forgetting. But yeah, and then Loki was huge. Mobius, Kang, Black Widow, Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, Melina Vostokov, all those characters. Shang-Chi, Xialing, Katie, Eternals, I could go on. Multiple of these character introductions were used pretty well. Like, even Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel introduced Miss Marvel pretty effectively. She-Hulk could have been a little bit better, but yeah, that's besides the point. Most of these character introductions worked pretty well. And some of these movies and shows were well. And I liked the introduction of shows and special presentations into the MCU. Special presentations, I think, will be used in the future to introduce new characters, such as that Nova special presentation that's been rumored and the Silver Surfer one. Like, it makes sense that those would be used, and I think that would work if it's executed as well as it was in Werewolf by Night. And so, I think that's one thing that it did well, with its negative thing that I'm about to talk about, which is that they tried to do too much. Flat out, there you go. A lot of people know it, it's pretty obvious. Like, look at this slate. They did, in 2 years, Phase 1 and 2 combined. Like, that's a lot. Or Phase 3, if you want to do that. I think there was 14 pieces of content. Or 17, 14, 17, something like that. It was a lot. And it just did too much for a 2-year span. And I've heard that Kevin Feige, and a lot of people have, that Kevin Feige was not happy with this at all. Was not happy with Phase 4 in general. And I've heard a lot of rumors that they're going to be delaying Phase 5 and 6. And I think next year we should remain mostly unaffected. I think the movies might be pushed back a little, but I don't think any movies would push back to the next year. And there might be like 1 or 2 shows delayed to the next year. But overall, I think next year will be fine. But after that, it's going to be huge. And I think that's a good thing, because they just did too much, and like, most of this isn't great. Like, if you look at this, WandaVision, good. Falcon and Winter Soldier, it was bad, I would say. Loki, great. Black Widow, god-awful. Shang-Chi, good. Eternals, fine. Spider-Man No Way Home, good. Hawkeye, fine. Moon Knight, good. Doctor Strange, good. Miss Marvel, fine. Thor Love and Thunder, fine. She-Hulk, fine. Black Panther, good. And so, yeah, it does have a few goods in there, which is a good thing. That's definitely good. But, like, that's just a given. About half of those were fines. And then there's Black Widow. We don't talk about Black Widow. And so they just tried too much at once. And this was all at the fault of Bob Chapek. This has nothing to do with Kevin Feige. So glad they brought back Bob Iger. They'll be able to fix that whole issue. And so this really is just one big old lesson on quality over quantity. And in my opinion, I think I've made jokes online about in the MCU's Phase 4 being known as the Dark Ages of the MCU, where they just did too much and none of it was good. Some of it was good, but you know. And so I thought, yeah, that's I think the biggest problem is just that they just did too much. They completed a whole phase in 2 years. Even Phase 2 was finished in 3, and it only had 6 movies. That was it. And so, yeah, it just did it was too much. And Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, they did their best. Like, Bob Chapek demanded something. They delivered. They did their best. And so I do not give any blame to them. It was going on a lot during Phase 4. Like, work hours were harsh on those workers. Huge props to them. And, like, VFX artists, actors, all that sort of stuff. They had so much, and I really hope that not only will there be better quality, but it'll be easier for them to work on these movies and shows, because they are, as a fan of the MCU, I don't want to see it die. A lot of people have been saying the MCU is dead, which, by the way, it's absolutely not yet anyway. And, if anything, DCEU is. And I just don't, yeah. And I want them, and I would hope that those people who work on these films would have just as much fun as we do watching them. And I don't want it to become a chore for them with 12-hour work days and stuff like that. And that's just something else that I wanted to mention. But yeah, just like slow down. That's the takeaway. Phase 5. It's a year and a half right now. Phase 5. They need to extend that to like 3 or 4 years. Like, it needs to be way longer. Are you kidding me? Anyway, so that's my MCU Phase 4 retrospective. This is a video that I've mentioned a couple of times. I do have a couple more videos that I'm working on, but this is definitely a very big video for me, and this was just stuff that I wanted to talk about. And this is also, in a way, also a score updating video. There were some projects that I talked about that weren't part of the MCU's Phase 4 or the MCU at all. And so, let me know if you want to see those, because some of those opinions have changed too, but it just wouldn't work with this video. And so with that said, guys, I will see you guys later.